You said that you were proud of saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai, you believed it was your right, and you questioned without naming him Asauddin Owaisi, the MIM MP from Hyderabad, who you believed, in a sense, did not reflect the true Indian cultural ethos, did not represent our plurality. But do you believe that Asauddin Owaisi, because he says, I will not say Bharat Mata Ki Jai, even as he says you have the right to say it, is anti-national as he is being described today by some?
I mean, one is declared anti-national at a drop of a hat, or a topi in this case. But you see, it is not only what you are saying, it is also why you are saying and how you are saying. If you say that, मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा, क्या कर लेंगे आप? Now this is a kind of a challenge. This is a kind of stance of confrontation which is not advisable at all. Not only to him, for anybody, I'll say the same thing. क्या कर लेंगे आपका क्या मतलब है? Suppose, because of any reason, you have any reservation against this word Mata, because you are willing to say Jai, you are willing to say Ki, you are willing to say Bharat, so your problem is with this word Mata. Suppose you have, why should we go into detail? Can you say it in a sensible, polite manner? Can you explain why you are saying it, which may outrage so many people? So you owe some explanation to the nation if you are taking this kind of a stand, or you don't have any explanation, except for the fact that it has not been mentioned in the Constitution. It is the confrontational attitude which causes problem. You can say anything. You can say, I will not accept that this is the month of March. But you can say, make it very aggressive. There is no reason to do that.
But I'd like to ask, Owaisi Saab, would he be okay saying Bharat Ammi Ki Jai? If he would be okay asking Bharat Ammi Ki Jai instead of Bharat Mata, if he's got the problem with Mata, not with Bharat.
This is your question to Mr. Owaisi.
Mr. Owaisi.
I shall keep that in mind, but I'm just wondering whether this is the difference between a politician who consciously wears his identity on his sleeve versus one who wears it lightly. You've got one in Asauddin Owaisi who wears his sherwani, wears his topi. Actually, he's a bar-at-law from Lincoln's Inn, but deliberately, in a sense, wants to be defined by a traditional Muslim identity versus a Javed Akhtar who perhaps has never...
No, I have 4 or 5 sherwanis. Let me make it...
You have sherwanis?
Yes. And I wear sherwani. As a matter of fact, I almost came here in a sherwani.
Asauddin Owaisi told me this once. He said that, अगर इनको मुझसे इतनी तकलीफ है, tell them to contest an election against me in Hyderabad.
हैदराबाद महत्व का तो हमने बता दिया. हैदराबाद के मोहल्ले के लीडर हैं. किसी हिंदुस्तान की किसी भी शहर में जहाँ 50% है मुसलमान और 50% दो, वहाँ मैं उनसे इलेक्शन लड़ने को तैयार हूँ.
आप तैयार हैं?
अरे मतलब ये है कि ये तो एक कहने वाली बात ये है कि वहाँ वो नहीं जीत सकते. चलो 50-50 होंगे, इसलिए कि मुझे तो दोनों ही वोट देंगे. ये बात पक्की है.
Mr. Punj is a politician. Whether you find politics something which, as creative people, you will always have your limitations. You've got your ideas, you've got your thoughts, you know, you are wonderful speakers, you're creative, but politics itself, are you essentially misfits? As public intellectuals, are you essentially misfits? Even in Parliament, were you all both essentially misfits amidst the shouting?
Well, I can't speak about Javed Saab, but I don't think I was a misfit in Parliament, because I really looked upon my work as a parliamentarian, as separate from being a politician, because I was nominated and I didn't have a constituency, so to speak. And for me, the most important thing was I was getting an opportunity because I'd been working at the grassroots. I'd been working in the slums of Mumbai and with women for about 25 years before I entered Parliament. And I thought there is a disconnect by those who are working at the grassroots and that place where policies are framed. And I essentially saw myself as somebody who was representing the grassroots activist. And so I didn't find myself a misfit. I really thought it was a huge learning experience for me, but I wouldn't contest an election. Because I feel that if you join a party, then you put the fetters on because the party's truth becomes your truth and you lose your independence. And that independence, whether I am in Parliament or outside Parliament, the work that I do is political. When you're talking about change, when you're talking about transformation, when you're talking about gender justice, when you're talking against communalism, all the work that you're doing is political. I think India's greatest identity is her pluralism and her composite culture. It cannot be, religion cannot be the basis of your fixed identity because a Kashmiri Hindu and a Kashmiri Muslim have much more in common with each other because of the factor of Kashmiriyat than a Kashmiri Muslim and a Muslim in Tamil Nadu, in spite of the fact that they share the same religion. So, if you are looking at composite culture as an identity, you have much more to gain than fixing it narrowly, which is not just your religion.
An atheist and a communist. Did the love come through a shared sensibility when it came to ideology, your strong beliefs in certain value systems, secularism, which you say is an article of faith for you? Is that what brought you together, or was it
my beauty?
Was it her beauty and your poetry? What is it? What? जावेद साहब, आज आप बोली दीजिए, ये प्यार कहाँ से शुरू हुआ? शायरी से शुरू हुआ, शबाना जी की एक्टिंग से शुरू हुआ, उनके लुक्स से शुरू हुआ, या पॉलिटिक्स से शुरू हुआ?
देखिए, अब आप बिल्कुल ही सच बोलते हैं।
And who would whom?
तो सच अगर आप मुझसे बिल्कुल पूछ रहे हैं तो एक्चुअली शुरू हुआ इनके फादर से। अब कैफी आजमी की बेटी, पहला तो अट्रैक्शन यही कि भाई ये उनकी बेटी है, अच्छा, फिर बाकी बातें बाद में होती रही। जहाँ तक रिलेशनशिप की बात है, या somebody has described good poetry rather very aptly, that good poetry should be felt thought, because feeling makes an impact, but it is a fleeting impact. Feeling doesn't stay with you for a very long time. A thought doesn't touch your heart. It may appeal to your intellect, but you don't internalize it completely because it is not reaching your heart. The best thing is something that appeals to your mind and appeals to your heart. And I think the strongest relationship is a felt thought, where you are emotionally attached to a person with whom you agree intellectually.
Did he woo you with poetry? The story goes that you are the one who made the first move. Is that
Not
true?
at all. Not at all. ये आप फौरन जो है इसको ठीक करवाएं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ था.
But you were, he says he was, Kaifi Azmi's daughter was sort of half the battle won, or half the battle won.
Actually,
but was it Javed Saab's poetry, his script writing? And he can, he's going to tell us later, the line that he gave you.
But it was his wit, really. It was his wit, and I found him very bright, very funny, and in many, many ways exactly like my father. And because my father's a feminist, I found that Javed was a feminist. Actually, what it was really was a common worldview and a common cultural sharedness. Because actually, the kind of similarity that there is in Javed and my background, we should have had an arranged marriage. But now, in this present time, I think that the reason we are supposed to be happy is because Javed says that we share such a warm friendship कि शादी भी हमारा कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ सकी. Because it's the friendship above all.
But you do live in a sense also very distinct lives. You've given each other your space. Is that important that शबाना अपना काम करती रहती है और आप अपने धुन में रहते हैं?
Most of the time we are together via satellite. You see, she is somewhere else, I am somewhere else. Both of us are traveling constantly. कभी-कभी ऐसा भी हुआ है कि I was coming from one place and I had to go to Pune by car, and she was going to Delhi, so she brought some clothes and gave it to me at the airport and took her flight and I went away somewhere else. तो ये जो है दूर के सिर्फ ढोल सुहाने नहीं होते हैं. कभी-कभी आप मिले तो मोहब्बत बढ़ जाती है.
यानी जितना कम मिले उतना अच्छा होता है.
अच्छा रहता है. आप कोशिश कर, आप देखें जरा आजमा के. It will work.
Yeah, you can tell me as a long-suffering husband. But Shabana Azmi, you know, has there been a competitiveness in this relationship? You know, both of you were nominated members of Rajya Sabha. You heard his speech the other day. Did you think, you know, maybe I could have made a, you know, I should have made a better speech. I could have made a better speech. You know, he comes up with a great nazm somewhere, and you'll say, you know, could I? You want to give the answer? Okay, give it. Is there competition, creative competition?
As a matter of fact, this Abhiman, and most of you must have seen that film, that Abhiman generally comes from the man, from the husband. ये जो घमंड है ना कि मैं better होना चाहिए.
It comes from the man.
तो ये आमतौर से मर्दों से आता है. मैं तो, there was a time when I told Shabana, and I tell many of my women friends, that in our society, if women are very successful and they are famous, they are celebrities, they become slightly apologetic about it. They feel guilty that maybe I am embarrassing the men folk who are around me. And I pointed out certain times in our initial relationship, although I made a mistake, but I did, that you should not feel apologetic about it. So this problem could not have come from Shabana. Women are comfortable feeling proud of their husband. It's the husband's false ego and conceit that creates the problem.
You know, the moment he made that speech in the Rajya Sabha, you were quickly YouTubing it to all your friends and WhatsApping it, on YouTube to all your friends. You know, Javed Bhai, whenever I've seen him, is much more laid back. You know, there's the Urdu Shair in him.
It's only because he has no technical competence. That's it.
I've never seen him WhatsApp a speech of yours.
आता ही नहीं है गरीब को.
अच्छा, that's...
I don't do my own also. मैं करता ही नहीं है इसका.
ये नहीं करते आप?
Never. Nothing personal.
I have witnessed many times young girls running up to me and saying, he writes such romantic songs, he writes such romantic poetry. How lovely to be married to such a romantic man. He must be speaking romantic things always. And I say, he doesn't have a single romantic bone in his body. And then Javed will give you the reason why.
In one of these interviews, the anchor asked me, ये क्या कह रही हैं? आप पर्सनल लाइफ में रोमांटिक नहीं हैं? मैंने कहा, भाई, जो लोग सर्कस में ट्रेपीज पे काम करते हैं वो घर में क्या उल्टे लटके रहते हैं?
You don't have a romantic bone in your body? What is... You must have. You know, we decided that we were going to play Antakshri, which both of you are very good at. And you were going to sort of give a line which then she was going to respond to. We've got time. We've got 8 minutes. But do you want to play Antakshri for a moment? And before we go to the audience, a line which perhaps you remember that you wooed her, and then she will respond to it.
Sach bata tu mujh pe fida, kyun hua aur kaise hua?
Come on.
तुमको देखा तो ये ख्याल आया, जिंदगी धूप तुम घना साया.
मर गई.
But there was that song, you know, एक लड़की को देखा तो कैसा लगा. That was ऐसा लगा. एक लड़की को देखा तो ऐसा लगा. Was that?
ये कई बार सवाल लोग करते हैं कि आपने किसके लिए लिखा था, तो मैं ये कहता हूँ कि अब सब तो नहीं बता दूंगा आपको. लेकिन खैर ये तो मजाक की बात है. सच ये है कि ये जो गाने हैं तो कमीशन वर्क है। होता यह है कि एक सिचुएशन दी जाती है, आपको ट्यून दी जाती है। खैर ये मैंने ट्यून पे नहीं लिखा था गाना, इसकी ट्यून आरडी ने बनाई थी। इसकी मैं आपको कहानी सुना दूं तो शायद इसका जो मिथ है थोड़ा कम हो जाए।
कर लीजिए।
हुआ ये कि व्हेन विदु चोपड़ा नरेटेड दिस स्क्रिप्ट टू आरडी एंड मी, मैंने पॉइंट आउट किया कि ये जो सिचुएशन है यहाँ, जब ये लड़का देखता है, उसे एक झलक देखता है और उसे ढूंढ रहा है, यहाँ एक गाना डाल सकते। तो उनका भाई गाना कैसे आएगा, ना कोई रोमांस है, ना उनकी कोई मीटिंग हुई है, ना उनकी कोई रिलेशनशिप है, कुछ हुआ ही नहीं है, तो गाना कैसे गाने लगेगा उस लड़की के लिए। मैंने कहा नहीं आ सकता, बिकॉज ही हैज सीन अ ग्लिम्स ऑफ हर एंड ही इज लुकिंग फॉर। तो कहले अच्छा आप गाना लिख के ले आइए, अगर अच्छा होगा तो हम ले लेंगे, हमें तो नहीं समझ में आ रहा कैसे हो सकता। तो तय हुआ कि नेक्स्ट वेडनेसडे को 4 बजे मिलेंगे। जैसे कि आमतौर से मेरे साथ होता है, 3:45 बजे तक मैं सुबह का ख्याल ही नहीं था कि लिखना है मुझे। तो अब मैं जब कार में जा रहा था तो मैं बड़ा एम्बैरेस था कि भाई आई हैड इंसिस्टेड कि यहाँ एक सिचुएशन में गाना होना चाहिए, नॉट दैट इट वाज गिवन टू मी। एंड व्हेन आई विल गो एंड आई विल टेल देम कि मैंने तो लिखा ही नहीं, तो होगा क्या। तो कुछ तो मैं ऐसा बहाना करूं कि जिससे कुछ मेरी फेस सेविंग हो जाए। And out of desperation, while I was driving myself, this thought came to me, okay, now, go on. I'll handle it. So when I entered the music room, they were sitting there, I said, this is a brilliant idea. और मैं आप लोग को सुना देना चाहता हूँ, अगर ठीक लगे तो गाना होगा। और वो ये है कि एक लड़की को देखा तो ऐसा लगा, and then there'll be similes. जैसे ऐसी, जैसे वो, जैसे ये। तो आरडी ने कहा आइडिया तो अच्छा है, तो एक अंतरा यहीं लिख दो। तो मैं एक कोने में बैठ गया, ये लोग बातें कर रहे थे। एंड द फर्स्ट अंतरा दैट यू हियर नाउ एंड द फर्स्ट अंतरा ऑफ द सॉन्ग आई रोट इन नेक्स्ट 15 मिनट्स। तो मैंने दे दिया उसे, उसने लिया पेपर, एंड आई थिंक ही मस्ट हैव टेकन नॉट 1 minute, 40 seconds or 30 seconds, he started singing.
I'm going to end not with the politics, but with love and romance again. In a family that has a Farhan Akhtar, a Zoya Akhtar, a Shabana Azmi, a Javed Akhtar, people who come from creative backgrounds have excelled. How do you spend a what is the idea of a family weekend? Is there a concept of a family weekend, and what is your idea of a romantic weekend, both of you at the very end?
Family get-togethers only revolve around food. First it starts with breakfast, then at lunch we ask what is going to be made for tea, then after tea what is going to happen for dinner. Because the Akhtar Azmis are completely obsessed by food. Now what the romantic evening is, I have no idea because I've not experienced it.
इन्होंने तो शराब भी बंद कर दी है आजकल. You've given up drink also. So how do you spend your weekend, your family weekend?
I love drinking and I have become a vegetarian also. Only on Saturday and Wednesday I eat non-vegetarian.
ये कहीं बीफ बैन के चक्कर में तुम फंस नहीं गए ना?
वो तो हम पहले भी नहीं खाते थे, वो हम खाते ही नहीं थे, और हमारे घरों में ये कभी भी नहीं होता था। लखनऊ में, आई एम फ्रॉम लखनऊ, लखनऊ में ट्रेडिशन है कि जितने ये आप मालूम कर लीजिएगा कि इस तरह के घरों में ये होता नहीं है, खाते ही नहीं हमेशा से। अब ये जिक्र ही अगर निकला है तो मैं आपको एक और बात बताऊं, इट्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग। बलबीर पुंज साहब सामने बैठे हैं और इन्होंने लिखा था, ये इनको आपने पॉलिटिशियन कह दिया, लेकिन पॉलिटिशियन से पहले ये राइटर हैं और जर्नलिस्ट हैं और हिस्टोरियन हैं। तो इन्होंने लिखा है वो, My great-great-grandfather had participated in 1857's mutiny, and ultimately he was sent to Andaman, and that is where he died. His grave is still there, and Balbir Punj Sahab has written about him. And he has written one reality, one fact, one historical fact, which very few people know. I'm so happy that Balbir Punj has written, who is from BJP. He was Sadrul Sudur, which was the word for the Chief Justice of Awadh in his own time. So he was asked to draw the constitution when 1857 mutiny will succeed, because there was a council which was preparing for it, and he was a kind of Ambedkar of that council, so because he was a lawman. And in that constitution, he had suggested capital punishment for cow slaughter. Huh?
तोप से उड़ा दिया जाए. We've come to the end of this. Before, we've got an audience which has to go for lunch. They've been late for lunch. You want to give one final nazam or a little 3 lines as to what to keep the audience in the right mood. Without you giving some lines in Urdu, this will not be complete.
मगर ये कोटा बहुत कम है 3 लाइन का. The title of the poem is ये खेल क्या है. मेरे मुखालिफ ने चाल चल दी और अब मेरी चाल के इंतजार में है. मगर मैं कब से सफेद खानों स्याह खानों में रखे काले सफेद मोहरों को देखता हूं. मैं सोचता हूं ये मोहरे क्या हैं. अगर मैं समझूं कि ये जो मोहरे हैं सिर्फ लकड़ी के हैं खिलौने, तो जीतना क्या है हारना क्या. न ये जरूरी न वो अहम है. अगर खुशी है न जीतने की न हारने का ही कोई गम है, तो खेल क्या है. मैं सोचता हूं जो खेलना है तो अपने दिल में यकीन कर लूं. ये मोहरे सचमुच के बादशाहों वजीर सचमुच के हैं प्यादे, और इनके आगे है दुश्मनों की वो फौज रखती है जो कि मुझको तबाह करने के सारे मंसूबे सब इरादे. मगर मैं ऐसा जो मान भी लूं तो सोचता हूं ये खेल कब है. ये जंग है जिसको जीतना है. ये जंग है जिसमें सब है जायज. कोई ये कहता है जैसे मुझसे ये जंग भी है ये खेल भी है. ये जंग है पर खिलाड़ियों की. ये खेल है जंग की तरह का. मैं सोचता हूं जो खेल है इसमें इस तरह का उसूल क्यों है कि कोई मोहरा रहे के जाए, मगर जो है बादशाह उस पर कभी कोई आंच भी ना है. मैं सोचता हूं जो खेल है इसमें इस तरह का उसूल क्यों है कि कोई मोहरा रहे के जाए, मगर जो है बादशाह उस पर कभी कोई आंच भी ना आए. वजीर ही को है बस इजाजत कि जिस तरफ भी वो चाहे जाए. मैं सोचता हूं जो खेल है इसमें इस तरह का उसूल क्यों है. प्यादा जो अपने घर से निकले पलट के वापस न जाने पाए. मैं सोचता हूं अगर यही है उसूल तो फिर उसूल क्या है. अगर यही है ये खेल तो फिर ये खेल क्या है. मैं इन सवालों से जाने कब से उलझ रहा हूं. मेरे मुखालिफ ने चाल चल दी है और अब मेरी चाल के इंतजार में.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a sense, the first couple of creative excellence, Shabana Azmi and Javed Akhtar. Please give them a very big hand.